Good afternoon to our audience in Ghana and beyond the shores of Ghana, and welcome to today's webinar on the topic Empowering Women and Girls, a glimpse into the life of a female CEO in Ghana. My name is Faisal Zacchiano, and I am the Executive Director of the UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce. We are hosting today's webinar on behalf of the British High Commission, and we are looking forward to speaking with a panel of female CEOs whose companies all happen to be members of the UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce. The UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce is a member-based organization, and we were established with the support of the British High Commission in 2016. I am happy to say that Absa Bank, which was formerly Barclays Bank, was actually a founding member, and Abnal Saipuku, who is on the panel today, was one of our founding directors, and we are always happy to have her come back and support us. The topic for today's discussion falls under the 3E program of the British High Commission, and that stands for Educating Girls, Empowering Women, and Ending Violence. It's a topic that would probably get more information on when we have Her Excellency, the British High Commissioner to Ghana, join us in a few minutes to give us her welcome remarks. But before we get to that, I would like to have our panel members introduce themselves individually. And my first panel member to introduce herself is Francisca Watting, and she will tell you a little bit more about herself.
All right. Thank you so very much, Ajoba. It's such a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be on this webinar, and more so for such an awesome opportunity to be on the same panel with such a group of accomplished women. And once again, my name is Francisca Watting. I arrived in this world almost 50 years ago by courtesy of my beloved mom and my late father. My mother was a consummate educationist, and for that reason, I grew up on a school campus, basically St. Monica's campus in Asante Mampo. And my late father was a medical doctor, but growing up for almost my entire youth, he was resident in another country. And guess where that was? In Redmond. So I hardly lived with him. So for the most part, I was with my mom and my very large extended family. I've been a lawyer in private law practice for the past 24 years. And except for 2 years that I spent in the US pursuing my master's in law degree and then working as a research associate at the National Academies of Sciences in Washington, D.C. I have spent all my entire working life in Ghana. Now, I founded FSB Law Consult 16 years ago, and thankfully, it is now one of the most respected boutique law firms here in Accra. I'm the managing counsel, and I also lead the litigation team. And that is the team that leads litigation across all our areas of practice. And we have 6 areas of practice. And that I feel it's so rewarding having a group of wonderful people who have been with me along this journey and been there and assisting and seeing our efforts bear fruit. Now, our law firm's wholly owned subsidiary, which is known as SSBT Trust Services Limited, was launched just a couple of months ago, well, in January. And I'm happy to announce that it's already making great strides in its niche market. About my family, being unapologetically Ghanaian, I come from a very large extended family, where that is the Kronko Asuna royal family of Asante Mampo. And because of that, you can be assured that I have a huge army of aunties and uncles and cousins and siblings and grandparents. But I have two direct brothers, and the sunshine in my rainbow are my two adorable children, Obnamo Akokwempe and Nanaya Efride Akokwempe. I love reading, I love writing, I love hanging out with family and friends, and of course, I love dancing. And the dancing, I'm talking about my traditional Abdua dance. I am a member of the African Women Lawyers Association, which is known as AWLA, where I volunteer my time in assisting and promoting women and children's rights. And I'm also a member of the International Bar Association, as well as the Ghana Bar Association, where I served previously as the Vice President of the Greater Accra branch of the association. So once again, I am very, very happy to be part of this wonderful conversation, and I look forward to having an awesome time with all of you. Thank you so much. Yes, over to you, Ajoba.
Thank you very much, Francisca. Our next speaker to introduce herself is Abna Osepuku from Absa Bank. Abna, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ajoba and UKGCC, for this awesome privilege. So my name is Abna. As Ajoba said, I look after Absa. We used to be Barclays, and we became Absa 2 years ago. I'm a Christian, I'm married, I have 2 sons, and I am very close to my family, both nuclear and extended. I'm not sure what else to add to it, but generally I'm happy it's Friday because I like the weekend. So look forward to this discussion. Thank you. Ajoba, over to you.
Thank you very much, Abna. And next is Patience. Patience, over to you.
Thank you, Ajoba. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Faisal Zacchiano. I'm currently the Group CEO for Hollard Ghana, which is a subsidiary of Hollard International in South Africa. Hollard Ghana looks after 2 insurance companies, a life insurance company, Hollard Life Assurance, and a general insurance company, Hollard Insurance Ghana. And I have about 3 decades of experience spanning accounting, finance, banking, insurance, and more recently, payment services outside banking. And like Abna, I'm also a practicing Christian.
Thank you, Patience. And last but not the least, we have Teresa Yowade. Teresa, over to you.
Hello, everybody, and it's good to see you all here this afternoon. My name is Teresa Yowade. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Charterhouse Productions, one of Ghana's leading marketing, communications, and brand experience companies. We were established in the year 2000, which means that we are about 23 years this year. And my passion is basically providing employment for creatives, because I believe that creatives need to find a space to express themselves creatively and to provide value to companies and to the economy at large. So we provide employment for creatives, and we give them an opportunity to thrive with their talents. So we spent the last 23 years creating a lot of creative content for events, and also putting our creative talents to use for companies who need to organize events and audiovisual production, audiovisual production materials as well. So basically, that's what we are. We have branches in Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Cape Verde. So happy to be here to have the great conversations. And I'm very passionate about women as well. So I convened the National Women's Summit, which is in its 4th year running. We just had a big event on the International Women's Day, and this topic is so apt, and so I'm all geared up for it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Teresa. So we've just heard from our 4 speakers today, 4 amazing women, and I'm very excited that we have diverse backgrounds, diverse companies, and so we're going to have a conversation about different companies and the different leadership styles that the 4 female CEOs have. At this juncture, I believe that...
Sorry, if you don't mind, I needed to add that I'm also a co-founder for the Executive Women Network and a founding member of the International Women's Forum, Ghana chapter. So that's very important because of the conversations we're going to have.
Thank you very much, Patience. I think, yes, it was a most appropriate contribution. At this juncture, I believe we would like to welcome Her Excellency the British High Commissioner to Ghana to make her welcome remarks for today's session. So, Harriet, if you're online, we're ready for you.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, super. So thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this event. We've just heard a little bit from these fabulous women who are taking part in the discussion this afternoon. I'm lucky enough to have met a couple of them, and they are really worth listening to. So thank you all very much for taking part. Thank you everybody for joining the event. These women are blazing a trail across the sectors of law, banking, insurance, event management. So I'm looking forward to learning from all of you this afternoon. Thank you for joining. Promoting gender equality and standing up for the rights of women and girls is an absolute priority for our government and personally for our British Foreign Secretary. She's focused on what she calls the 3 E's. That's educating girls, empowering women, and ending violence against women and girls. And March is a particular focus for us on those issues, not only because we have just celebrated International Women's Day, as has already been mentioned, but building on that, the organisation for which I work, the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, has designated March as Africa Gender Month. So throughout the month of March, we'll be hosting and taking part in a series of events that are focused on those 3 E's, on promoting the role of women and girls in Ghana, of giving them promoting their active voices, giving them agency in their lives. We know that women and girls obviously represent half of the world's population and therefore hold half of its potential, but we equally know that gender inequality persists and that holds everyone back. So this is not a women's issue, this is about everybody benefiting from women's greater involvement. Achieving gender equality is the only way that we'll create a fairer, safer, more prosperous world where human rights are upheld and the Sustainable Development Goals are met for everybody. Women in leadership is also an important topic for me personally, as some of the other contributors this afternoon have said. I am the first female British High Commissioner to Ghana, which is a huge honour. For me, this means ensuring that women's diverse voices are heard and are heard in a meaningful way, that women have the opportunities to lead, to participate in decision-making processes at all levels in order to bring about long-term change. So as I say, I'm very much looking forward to picking up some tips from the fabulous women we'll hear from this afternoon, to hear how they have developed their leadership style, how they balance work and their other commitments, and how they see things moving forward here in Ghana. I'm also really grateful to the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce for putting together today's excellent event, and particularly glad that we're doing it through the Chamber of Commerce, given how important that partnership between British and Ghanaian businesses is as part of the broader UK-Ghana partnership. So thank you very much for allowing me to be part of it, Ajoba. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Harriet. And I couldn't have said it better. This is why it is important for us to have this conversation. And it's appropriate that we have a female British High Commissioner and we also have a female Executive Director at the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce. And we have these amazing female CEOs from the Chamber membership as well. Before we go on, if anybody in the audience has a question for our panel today, please use the Q&A box and I will be reading out your questions as and when they come up. Whilst we're waiting for questions from the audience, I'd like to remind everybody listening to us that the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce and the British High Commission are live streaming this event on our Facebook channels as well. So if for any reason somebody can't get through on Teams, they can watch us on Facebook Live. And if you're not following us on social media, please do well to follow us. We're on all the platforms And you may also follow me as well, UKGCC Executive Director, on all of the social media platforms. So in no particular order, I'm going to ask of my panel my first question. I believe in your introductory remarks, some of you have gave a little bit more detail than others about your backgrounds. But for those of you who kept the introductory remarks very short, I'm going to start with you, and I would like to hear from you what your journey to leadership has been, and the path that it took for you to get to this point, and how it has influenced your leadership style. So I know Abna knows I'm going to go to her first. So Abna, please, over to you.
Okay, so thank you, Ajoba. I think for me, right, growing up, I was the first of 4 girls, and I felt very responsible for my sisters. My dad didn't cease to remind me that they were all looking up to me. And given that my mother was also looking after her siblings and we all lived together, it unknowingly made me believe that the role of a firstborn was to look out for the interests of others. So I did not realize until much later that it was actually the beginning of my leadership development. The good thing was, there were no cameras, nobody was watching me. I could make my mistakes and pick myself up. And I didn't have a playbook, but I'd set the direction, the others would follow. I'd allocate the resources that we have, and then I've still managed through each of them. I mean, one of them was really very, perhaps what the right word would be, hardworking or industrious. We didn't have a brother, and she would do anything that required energy. So if we needed to change a bulb, I knew I could count on her to do that. The other was good with people. So I realized that there was never one size fits all, but I could sort of rely on them or lead through them. And later on in life, I realized that these are some of the things that have helped me individually, or not individually, this has helped me, as I've grown to become the leader that I am today. So perhaps this would be the background to where I've come from. And I think it's very important because it shaped me without me even knowing about it. Ajoba, I think that should answer your question, hopefully.
Thank you. Yeah, it did. But yeah, you didn't talk about your current leadership position and how it's played out in your current position. Would like to hear about that as well.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So currently, as I said, I look after ABSA Bank, but also remember I was responsible for the transition from Barclays, a household name, actually, into ABSA. I think what this and 2 other things, right? I also chair the stock exchange, and I'm also chairperson for the College of Health Sciences as well, and I'm not a medical person. But I think what this has made me realize is that I have been very clear on my purpose. So as a person, I really know what I've always wanted to be, not do, but be, because I typically would focus on giving other people's life a meaning, whether at home, whether a friend or other, and I'm also a problem solver. So I find that, either I'm solving for myself or I help others do that. And as a person, I think I also am what is probably street smart in English, but in Tree is efficiency. I know what to do, when to do it, and at what time. And because of that, perhaps putting all that together, one would say that my leadership is more like a servant leadership. But also when I look at my journey to where I am today, I'm also the kind who looks at things from a very big picture perspective. So I am able to balance short-term goals with long-term plans, and I've found that it's helped me a lot in my career. So I can say no to something that looks very attractive today, knowing that I'm working towards something that is even better in the future. So I think with that and the fact that generally I'm very bold, so I am cool and calm on the outside, but I can take tough decisions and do stuff most people won't do. So I think that perhaps has also made me very transformational. So I'm something between the two. And I think being a servant leader and a transformational leader has helped me get to where I am, in addition to, my growing up story.
Amazing. I think that, this sums up how the way we are raised and the lessons we learn when growing up can impact our future careers. So thank you very much for sharing that story. Patience, we'd like to hear from you also about your journey to leadership and how that has influenced your leadership style today, and in what ways other people can learn as they go along and make the kinds of decisions that would make them effective leaders. So Patience, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajoba. So with me as well, my leadership journey started very early on in life. And I'm also a firstborn. And one thing that keeps me going is the fact that a lot of people look up to me. And very early on, my father made it very clear that he expected a lot from me. So he pushed me more than my other sibling. And typically, academically, when we all brought our reports, he would pick on me, I thought, in those days. And even if I got something like 80 or 85, you ask me why I didn't get closer to 100, and I really felt under pressure. I thought it was needless pressure those days, but it just built in me the ability to want to do, better and better so that other people would be inspired. So that's how, I was raised. And he pushed me to do admin and then to go on and qualify as a chartered accountant. And I think that was just a great foundation for me, for the other skills, technical skills that I acquired along the way on my road to leadership. And combining those with other softer skills that I acquired, I realized that it positioned me, together with all the experience, whether they're good or bad, lessons I learned along the way, I realized that it's positioned me to lead at the highest level. And I do naturally have an intense focus on execution. I like to, deliver and get results for all the effort that I put in. And for a long time, because of my strong tax orientation, I had to work on the people side of things, keeping people, at the center of things, so that right now, as I sit here, I have a fair balance of both people and task orientation. And for me, that gets you closer to being an inspirational leader. So, yeah.
Thank you, Patience. I'm glad that you mentioned specifically that being task focused and results oriented meant that you were quite pushy, because you measure others by the same standards that you measure yourself. And so you've had to learn to sort of also balance that with being more people oriented. So for me, that's the key takeout that I took from your submission just now, and I'm excited about that. Teresa, what would you say has been how your background has influenced your current leadership style? And being the founder of the business and growing it to become a cross-border business, I'm really, really interested in learning about how your background influenced the push to go into business yourself. And I must add that I'm personal friends with 3 of the ladies on here. Patience I've known from a distance, so I don't really know much about her personally. But Teresa is a very close friend, so I do know her story, and I'm going to try not to interrupt when she's speaking. I'll leave her to tell her own story. Yes. So Teresa, over to you.
Okay, so we are definitely a product of our environment. Well, I mean, as a student of psychology, there's always the ongoing argument of nature versus nurture, and I definitely believe strongly about nurture. And I believe that I've been shaped by my experiences. Growing up, I came from a middle income family, and everything was done for me. I mean, right up to my teenage years, I didn't have to worry about whatever I needed. But there was a change in my family where my family got caught up in some political situations, and all of a sudden things just changed overnight. And so I found myself in a situation where I really had to just take ownership of my life at a very early stage in my life. About the age of 18, I realized that my life wasn't going to be ordered as I had envisioned it. And so I had to redesign my life and take control of my life. So that, I think, was the beginning of my leadership journey, because I had to literally take control of my life and design it. Ask myself, what kind of life did I want to lead? Where did I want to go with my career? And how, in fact, the questions were even as simple as survival, basic survival, you know? And so I had to rethink a lot of things, and I grew up overnight. So even though I came from a family with a lot of siblings, I had never really been in any leadership role as a child growing up, but I had to just basically don that coat at the time when it was thrust upon me. And I had to make very important life decisions. I had to, at some point, I was in the UK. I was sent to the UK to study. I enrolled for the first year at University College London, and that's when the family situation occurred. So I wasn't able to continue my education in the UK, and so I was caught in a conundrum. What do I do? So I decided, against all other advice that I was given, to pack my bags and come back to Ghana, because I felt that Ghana was my home, and I felt that if I could reinvent my life, I could do it back home. So I packed my bags and I came back to Ghana, and I had to start from scratch. So I ended up working at multimedia for some years. That's where I met Ajoba. And then I decided to, while working at multimedia, I decided to go back to school. And then I also got married along the line. So I had to be juggling a lot of roles. At a certain point in time, I was a student. I was a full-time student. I was a full-time worker, and I was a full-time wife, so to speak. And then, of course, motherhood came in as well, all at once. And so I've had to really take very practical decisions about my life at every stage. And I knew at some point that after working for a while, I realized that I had so much passion, I had so many ideas, there was so much I wanted to do, that I wanted to be in the driving seat. I wanted to be the author of my own destiny. And so I knew I was going to go into entrepreneurship. And so when the opportunity came to set up a business, it was just natural for me. I dove right into it and hit the ground running. I'm a very progressive thinker. I'm always looking at progress. I'm always thinking about what's the next step, what's the next level, what do we need to do next. So I'm the kind of person who would always be driving people around me towards achieving goals. I'm a very systematic thinker and very analytic. So I like to, they laugh at me all the time. I'm always writing. In fact, I take more minutes from any encounter than even the person subscribed at the meeting, and even the meeting scribe. I can attend the meeting and note everything that was said, and I'll come at you demanding of you everything that you were asked to do. You know, so I'm that kind of detailed person. So I lead by driving people to keep an eye on the vision. I always want people to keep an eye on the big picture, on where we need to go and how we get there. And I believe in little steps. So I drive my team to ensure that there's progress. I'm not interested in excuses and reasons. And I always tell them, reasons don't solve the problem. I'm very solution oriented. I'm always looking for solutions and progress. And that's what I used to drive my team. And that's how I have also lived my life. So I'm always looking at what is the next step? What's the next thing to do? Where do we need to get to? How do we get there? And how do we rally ourselves together? I have a very democratic style. And sometimes I think I'm between democratic and laissez-faire, because I'm still very relaxed and very laid back. But at the same time, I want to see the results. So I give people space to achieve their results. I give them timelines, I give them targets, and I police and monitor till I get the results that I'm looking for. And I think that that kind of systematic approach has helped me bring some meaning and order to my life, which got very chaotic at a certain stage in my life. And I believe that these are the things that help me to survive and help me to have more clarity and focus on my life's journey. So that's me summed up in my leadership style.
Thank you very much, Theresa. So I think for me, the key takeout from that is your survival instincts kicking in and propelling you to success. And you know that portion where you talked about the cross between being laissez-faire and being pushy, I think we'll come back to that, because when you have to take tough decisions as a female manager, we would want to understand how your attitude generally and your style of management impacts those decision-making steps. But before we get into that, I would like to hear from Francisca. So Francisca, we would like to hear a little bit more detail about your current management style and how your background and the way you were raised has influenced the way you work. And after that, then we'll go to the questions from the audience. So Francisca, over to you.
Thank you very much, Adoba. It's been so exciting listening to my three co-panelists. And it's as if there's a little bit of me in each and every one of the stories that have been shared. And I've been sitting here thinking, wow, this is truly amazing. You know, first of all, I'm also a firstborn. And so most of the things that Abna and Patience had to do as firstborns, I've been there, done that. And most importantly, for me, the unique thing is that, as I indicated, I grew up on a school campus. So, you know, you grow up around books, around law and order, around structure. But my mom made sure that my siblings and I had every opportunity to spend time with our extended family at home. And I remember when I was young, growing up, my great-great-grandfather was alive, my great-grandmother was alive. In fact, she is the person who had the most influence on me. My grandmother was there, and my mom, my aunties and uncles, cousins, siblings, I can't even count them. So being in such an environment, and our family house in Mampo is huge. Being in that environment made sure that at a very early stage, I had to learn to appreciate different people with different characteristics. So as I grew up, it became very easy for me to mingle. It became very easy for me to deal with people. So, for example, when it comes to relating to different people at different levels, let me get to anywhere. The security person at the gate, I can engage them in conversation, and everyone will be wondering, what the hell were you talking about? But definitely I'll have something to discuss. And when I get to a managing director, I will be able to do the same. You know, and so it's because of that kind of wide background and that kind of opportunity to interact with a lot of people. So it shaped me into that kind of leader where even looking at my area of practice, being a practitioner, you have to deal with a whole lot of people. You are dealing with colleague lawyers, you are dealing with judges, you have to deal with court staff, you have to deal with your clients, and last but definitely not least, you have to deal with your team members. And when you go home, it's it's a second round, as it were. You know, so being able to have that capability to deal with people, I think it's something that I got from my upbringing and that kind of broad networking system that I had. And another unique thing is also that when I was born, you know, as I indicated, from such a big family, I think my mom giving birth to me was at the time when most of my aunties and uncles were young. So I was basically their first toy to play with. So everybody knew Mandesewa. Everybody would carry me wherever they had to go. And recently I was teasing one of them that, you know, each and every one of you, I remember your boyfriends because you used to take me along to go and see them. And so this is just to explain how then it built into my leadership as being somebody who is able to relate at all different levels with people. And even when it comes to managing the home, how do you bring yourself down, forget about being managing counsel, forget about being a lawyer, and become an auntie or a sister or a niece and be able to relate to all the people that are around you? Leadership qualities, it's interesting. I am that kind of person that I think, look, give people room. I have a lot of confidence in people, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, anywhere else. So, for example, if you are my son and you have to fry an egg, I won't say stop because you will get burnt. No, go ahead and fry it. You want to put together fried rice, go ahead. So by the same token, when I'm with a team, I make sure if you are a lawyer and you are one day at the bar, I will not say that because of that you will not be able to do A or B. No, whatever assignment needs to be given, because my own upbringing in the profession was that I didn't get to be treated differently from day one. I worked in a firm, almost every firm that I worked in, which were about 2. I was the only female there for the most part. Apart from where I worked with my friend Joyce, that were 2 females. So they are all men. The playing field is level. So it's the same leadership skill that I've picked, and it is that I will not say this person is 1 day at the bar, this person is 10 years at the bar. Give everybody the opportunity and step back. So I believe in delegating as well. You delegate, give the people the confidence, let them know that you trust in their ability to deliver, and you'll be amazed what they are able to do. See, so that is also part of it, and also the transformational aspect of leadership. I believe that things should not remain the same. There's always the need to challenge the status quo, because for so many years, people thought that lawyers are stiff, lawyers are, they are not approachable, they are rude, they are arrogant. These are issues that people thought to be self-evident. But as individuals, when we get into certain situations, we are able to break down some of those perceptions. Why? Because there's the need to challenge the status quo. There are others who believe that, if you enter a law firm, you should be prepared to see dusty files piled up somewhere, because that is what shows that they are doing a lot of work. No, I believe otherwise. So in my environment, I would want to make sure that it's fresh, it's neat, it's inviting. Whoever gets there is excited, and that it begins to shape people's mindset about how things should be. So in sum, my leadership it's been transformational, it's been democratic, as I said. My team members on all levels, I make sure that whatever is going on in the firm, everybody is aware of it. If any decision is being taken, I sit back, I let them come up with their own ideas, and then we get moving along. And I always say that for most people my generation, I think we should make it a point to interact a lot more with the younger ones. The kinds of things they know, we have no idea. And it's because we mostly come to the table thinking that they don't know anything. We are the experienced ones. So when I tell them, look, guys, there's this thing that I think we should do. What do you think? Let me give it to you. The 2 of you, take it up and give me some feedback in 2 days. The things they will come and present to me in my wildest dreams, they would never have crossed my mind. So with that, it gives them that confidence, knowing that whatever their contribution is appreciated. Because as leaders, we can't do it all. There's always the need for us to rely on the amazing teams that we build and to get their input. And with that, we are able to grow our organizations and to grow as individuals. I remember when I decided to write, it was more of my team members telling me, no, madam, we need to have a blog on our website. I said, okay, go ahead and write. They said, no, you would have to write it. I said, me? Why? They said, oh, madam, you would have to write it. So the first one is coming out on this day. Really? So they literally held my feet to the pole. And here I am. And I've just taken it up, and it's been a wonderful journey. So,
Amazing.
This is what my skills have been. Yes, so thank you.
Yeah, I like how you've gone from being raised in a collaborative environment and engaging with various members of your extended family, leading you to a point where you're a very hands-on leader and you manage from a bottom-up approach, and that's amazing. We have some questions from the audience, and so I'm going to go to that. I will read the questions, and then if any one of you would like to answer, just let me know by raising your hand. Otherwise, I will decide who the most appropriate panel member to answer the question would be. So the first question is, people say that if a woman wants to advance in leadership, let me read the exact words. People say that if a woman wants to advance in leadership, you would have to behave like a man and be aggressive. How true is this perception? Who would like to answer that? Francisca, you just spoke him, so let me let somebody else answer. You can add to it later. Maybe Abna. Oh, Patience. Okay, Patience, go ahead then.
So I think leadership is about people. And for me, leadership is gender neutral. And everyone, whether you are male or female, you need to learn how to work effectively with people, which entails acquiring certain skills, the ability to inspire people, the ability to energize, motivate, bring people along, carry them with you. And all these are skills that all of us must acquire. How our personalities, play into this, it's not the essence of leadership. The essence of leadership is delivering results with people. And for me, we must all learn that skill. So we come across differently. I have a strong personality. I can be forceful. And so honestly, I really can flow in an environment where men are being loud and aggressive, But that doesn't, my focus has always been, how do I work with people effectively to deliver on results rather than the approach? So for me, the focus should be on working effectively with people and not whether you are male or female.
Thank you, Patience. I think that's well spoken. That is not gender specific, and that the skills you acquire for leadership are actually gender neutral, and actually speak to the theme for this year's International Women's Day, about the biases. So I did see that coming through in that question, and I really like your answer. Abna, did you want to add something to what Patience said?
Yes. Thank you, Ajoba, and thank you, Patience. I totally agree with Patience, because end of the day, there are different leadership styles, right? And it's not about whether you're a male or a female. To be honest, very rarely, do you get a role just because you're a female, as it were. The role is advertised. And even at best, perhaps females are encouraged to apply, but it's a leadership role. There's nothing like a female leadership role, And so in addition to what Patience has said, I think primarily, first of all, one has to be competent, right? Because if you're not competent and you haven't, demonstrated excellence in, your previous technical work, your name doesn't even come up. Okay. Secondly, you've got to have some visibility. But more importantly, I think at the senior level, the softer skills are more important, right? So it's around the culture, it's around, how you create that environment, that allows collaboration. It's around, how you communicate, to and with your people. And it's about your compassion, empathy, etc. So it really, really is about getting everything done really through people. because you just set the direction. But end of the day, to be honest, without the people, there's no leader. So I totally agree with what Patience said. Just to add that, these 4 elements, I think, are also critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abna. And I believe when it comes to the soft skills, I would agree with you that we tend to nurture that more in women, particularly from the home environment. So it's easier for us to bring it to the work environment, but it's not necessarily something that is specific to women, and so I would agree with you. Francisca, you wanted to say something?
Yes, thank you very much, Aduba. I think I was just enjoying the rest of the conversation so much. So thank you very much. Yes, I believe Patience and Abna have touched basically on the main points. So what I would add is that when it comes to leadership, it's not about seeing a female person or seeing a male. It's about the output. And when it comes to output and one's ability to work, these do not come with gender descriptions. As Abna said, the most important thing is that the technical aspect of the work that is going to push you to that leadership role, you must be able to demonstrate that indeed you are on top of that. Because as we've all realized, we are people with backgrounds in the arts, in banking, in insurance, in law. At the end of the day, one could rest assured that when it comes to the work output regarding these areas, these are matters that nobody will be able to take away from any of the wonderful leaders that we have on this platform. And so it is not because one is a female that is going to get them to be a leader, or that one is aggressive and that gives them a male kind of attribution, and that is what will then propel them to leadership. It's all about the work that they have to do, plus, most importantly, their ability to carry people along on that journey. So I believe that with the aggressiveness bit and all of that, those are perceptions that we need to be able to discuss and break down so that people will realize that irrespective of one's gender, one will be able to reach any level of leadership at all that they set their minds to and work hard towards achieving that.
Thank you, Francisca. Yeah, Teresa, do you want to add anything further?
Yeah, take on the question is that I think it's probably coming from a perception of what leadership means, probably thinking that leadership means aggressively driving people towards a destination, and therefore they probably be thinking that maybe the males show more aggression, but there's nothing aggressive about leadership. I mean, on the contrary, there are so many leadership styles that one can employ to drive a team towards achieving its goal. And those leadership styles, I think, have been mentioned by the other panelists, can be employed by both males and females. So there's nothing masculine or feminine about leadership. It's about what style you are using to drive your team, or which approach you are using to drive your team, how you are motivating them, how you are encouraging them and driving them towards achieving your goals. So there's nothing masculine or aggressive about leadership. It's no, I think that's a notion that should be dispelled.
Thank you very much. I think at this point, all of our speakers have spoken very firmly and dispelled that perception. Another question from the audience is on whether a woman can rise to the heights of her career and still have a family. And the audience would like to know what some of the practical obstacles one is likely to face and what are some of the choices that one has to make. So I will go to Patience first to answer this question, and then I will move round to the other speakers to also contribute from their own experiences. So Patience, over to you.
Thank you, Ajuba. Most certainly. I am married and I have 2 children. My first daughter is just graduating in June this year, and I'm so excited. Wow. And then my son is 16. And I'm a family person, and I really like to spend time with my family as well. But you need to be able to understand that everything is possible. It's just the price that you pay. You have to be ready to put in the work and make the sacrifices and get the help that you require, because nobody got to the top alone. You really do need help. Apart from buying from your family, and if you are married, from your husband, support from your husband and your children and extended family, you also need to put in measures and structures to support your corporate aspirations. So you make sure that all these are in place. You get very effective and efficient with your time management, and that's it really. You can have it all. And just make sure that you're mindful of some of the challenges that come with a family person also being, very deliberate about growing in their career as well. It takes managing all sorts of dynamics and bringing your family along and making it clear that it's not an either-or situation, and all of us are benefiting from your success at the workplace. So really, and for women, we are quite great at multitasking, as you hear several people say, and it's just the understanding that we wear several hats, and we can put one on and take the other at will. At work, you are the manager, you are the leader, you are so and so. At home, you're not a CEO. If you are, you are the mother, you are the wife, and the ability to do that effectively will then enable you to have it all and succeed equally at everything important in your life.
Thank you, Patience. And who would like to go next? Abna or Teresa? Okay,
Right.
Abna.
Thank you very much. I think Patience, summarized it beautifully, and I agree with what she said in all totality. So for me, in addition to that, I just make sure that apart from having a very effective support system at home, so whether it's family, health, etc., I'm also very deliberate, about making sure that in the workplace, I also surround myself with people that are better than me. I'm not embarrassed by that at all. When I'm recruiting, I'm looking for people sharper, smarter, more talented than me who can get the job done, because there's only one of me, and if I have a team, that works excellently and together, not just individuals who are smart, but to make sure that as a whole team, we come together and work together. That really helps. So for me, it's about being deliberate, both in the home front, getting that support, or what I call partners, right, to make you succeed at home, but also partners that will help you succeed in the office. Once you do that, then it makes it easier. Sometimes there are challenges. Remember when I joined Barclays back in the day, that night, my youngest son was ill. Of all the nights, we had to rush him to, I think, Smith, the Trust Hospital. Thank God for my mother. So early in the morning, I was debating. I just gotten the executive director for corporate bank, and I was going to be joining that morning. It was a question of, do I call in and say I can't make it, because I had barely slept, because we're all at the Trust Hospital. But thankfully, my mother and my husband looked after my son, throughout the day. I came in, and then later I told them I had to go early. So it's really about, making the choices, but also being transparent and asking for help when you need it, whether at work or at home.
Wow, the choices that parents need to make, because it's not just about being a mother. I believe fathers also need to make choices sometimes like that. And I like the fact that you gave us a practical example from your own life. And I'm sure if there are other women managers listening, they can totally relate to your example. And so in terms of decision making, when you are sort of stuck like that, it was really, really helpful example that you gave. And I also like the fact that you harped on having a great team both in the workplace and then at home, because that's something that patients also spoke about, that it's important to have help at home and to ask for assistance when you need it. But I think we don't emphasize the importance of having a great team also in the office, because that support makes a huge difference, because these are the team that are going to help you deliver on your work objectives as well. So if for any reason you can't be there, it makes such a huge difference. Francisca, would you also like to speak to the question of having a family and how that influences or how that has impacted on your career?
Yes, Ajuba, indeed. I believe that as a woman, whatever one sets their minds to achieve, they'll be able to do so. And in doing that, it's very important that we are able to make choices, we are able to plan, and we are able to stick with those plans. Because, for example, if we decide that I want to have a family, I want to have a career, you should be able to develop a path that you need to be on. And once you are on that path, on that journey, what are the support systems that you will be calling upon on that journey? Because definitely you can't be on that journey alone, as patients and Abna have already intimated, and you've also added your voice to that, Ajuba. So, for example, being a lawyer, there are so many opportunities, there are so many ways that one can use their legal knowledge in life. You can go to corporate, you can be a private practitioner, you can join an international organization, you can be an executive director, and a good one at that, like Ajuba is, anything and everything. But you decide which path you want to take. So, for example, I chose to be a private practitioner. For me, I realized that it was going to give me a lot of flexibility in terms of how I control my time, in terms of how I will be able to take care of my family. FSD Law Consult was set up in 2006. That is exactly a year after my first child was born, because I realized that having to commute into Accra and coming back and all of that. So I made that choice. I made a plan that I'm going to set up on my own, and I decided I had to stick with it. So I had to rely on family, I had to rely on other sources of help to drive me to that point. So, for example, you decide, I want to be there for my kids. I said, I will drive my kids to school and pick them up. How can you do that? You can do it if you set your mind to it. So then you are deliberate in what you do. Instead of spending your time on other things that may not assist in what you want to achieve, you plan properly, you are deliberate. What you don't need to do that will not add anything to the life that you set for yourself, you take those ones out. And I remember Abna mentioning at some point that she says no when it's necessary. And I'm a very typical example of that. Because most of the time as women, we tend to believe that we have to take on everything that is thrown at us. Oh, Francisca, can you do this? Yes. Francisca, can you come here? Yes. Francisca, can you do this for me? Yes. And then at the end of the day, you sit back and you realize that you are overwhelmed. But if you are able to say no, you are able to pick what you can do and what you cannot. Be authentic with yourself. Be genuine with yourself. Know what you can do and what you cannot do. Definitely, the sky will be the limit. So you decide you want to have a career and have a family, absolutely. But plan and stick with that plan and get help along the way, and you will enjoy the journey. Thank you very much, Ajuba.
Amazing. I think that the key strand that runs through everybody's statement has been ask for help when you need it. And I also like Francisca's answer about setting up on her own and becoming self-employed because she needed the flexibility to be able to look after her family and then also earn an income. So that also adds a different perception or perspective to the women who want to be employed and also want to have a family. If you can't juggle being an employee, there's the option to become self-employed. And I like that. Teresa, if you're still on with us, because I don't see your camera on, are you able to speak to this question as well, or do you want us to move on to the next question? Do we still have Teresa on here? Okay, let me move on to another question. The next one is from Henry Afrifa. He's asking, what specific roles did your respective fathers play in your childhood to inspire and support you to become what you are today? I believe Patience and Abna and also Francisca spoke about that in their introductory remarks. So that has been responded to, unless there's anything further you want to add to what you said earlier on. Does anybody want to add anything further to the impact that their fathers had in their lives from their formative years and impacted your leadership style today?
So just to add that long before he for she became formal, my dad understood that, and was our champion. Really, we're all girls, you know, so really very central to where we are right now. It's that kind of trust that and confidence that he had in us. And it was until recently that I actually realized that it was not normal, you know, or we were honored or we're privileged to have grown in an environment where it was not a disadvantage to be female, and that nobody expected you to do less, to achieve less, or to be less because you were female, and you could do whatever anyone and any other human being, you know, could do. As I grew up and I heard very terrible stories of how in families decisions were made to deny females of educational opportunities, then I realized how blessed we were. So for me, that is just, you know, there's nothing I can do to repay him for instilling in me that confidence. And because of that, wherever I am, I don't focus on being female. I get to an environment and I'm just about results, you know. I do not even notice when people are discriminating against me because I'm a woman. I've never realized that people actually attempt to discriminate against you, because it doesn't even occur to me that you must discriminate against. I mean, I do not even, it doesn't enter my head that you have reason to discriminate against me, you know. And that really has been what has gotten me this far, because I could have been intimidated or paralyzed in a way if I had known that, well, maybe around here, women are not welcome in leadership roles or something like that. But that had never happened to me. And for me, that's just a great, great role that my dad played in where I am today.
Thank you, Patience. I think that as you were speaking, the thought that just popped up in my mind, that really, truly, the confidence to step out and be a high achiever actually starts from home, you know. So that confidence for you to excel in whatever you set your mind to do actually came from the foundation that you got from home. And it's the same thread that runs through everybody else's story when they were talking about what their upbringings were like and what their home lives were. Now that we have Teresa back, Teresa, do you want to respond to the question about, I think the previous question was about balancing your family life and your work life, and then maybe also talk about the impact that your father had on your career and how you manage your team as a leader. Teresa. Okay, I think Teresa is having technology challenges. Abna, do you want to go and talk about the impacts your father had on your life?
Okay, thank you. I think I sort of mentioned it briefly, but I think similar to Patience, you know, like I said, they were all girls, right? And so my dad, I didn't know as well that it was his strategy to get us all ready for life, so to speak. So the four of us are all in very senior positions. Two of us are CEOs. One is a partner in a law firm. The other is an executive director, you know, in a UN organization. But we were not necessarily the best and the brightest, I'd say. But I think we had a lot of encouragement as kids. because my parents were available. My dad would always tell us that, you could do this. And I think that it was because he knew he didn't have a son. So perhaps he thought he has to get us ready, for life. In addition to that, my mother, my mother's a perpetual, everlasting encourager. She doesn't see what is impossible. So that helped as well. But overall, I think my dad made us believe that we could be anything, So to be honest, I think the first time I also realized that perhaps if you were a woman, you had limitations. I was working and somebody was telling their story and I was shocked, genuinely. In fact, I was naive is probably the word, but it was just because of how I was brought up. I don't know if we had brothers, if it would have been different. I don't know. Thing is, I never got to experience that, but thanks be to God. I mean, my parents didn't have a son, so they didn't have an option but to make sure we turned out well. And they did a great job of that, yeah.
Thank you very much, Abna. And yes, that's also a very inspiring story that I think encourages everybody that is a parent to be an encourager and to be a cheerleader of their children and to instill the confidence in them to aspire to greatness. Francisca, would you like to add anything of your experience? Sorry, Teresa, yes, I can hear you.
Am I back on? Sorry about
yes,
the
Teresa, you're back on.
So can I give my contribution?
Yes, okay, and then after you, Francisca.
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, so I think the bit about the work-life balance, a quick one on that. I echo what the other ladies have said. You definitely cannot do it alone. We are not a superwoman, despite all the songs that tell us we are superwomen. We are not superwomen. You need to be able to, as you're juggling, you've got to seek for help. I've had to rely on nannies, on housekeepers, my mother, to help me, to help cover up for the children while I pursued my my career and I grew my business. And of course, things like I've had to rely on cooks as well to get the feeding of the family going as well. So you definitely need to build a support system around you to free you to be able to give of your best in your work for your work, whether you are working in a company or you are running your own business. So a support system is very necessary, is very important. And I find myself actually encouraging a lot of young people because sometimes I see them struggling. Some of the women I work with, I see them struggling with childcare. And one thing I always try to advise women against is do not let getting married affect your career progression. Do not let having children affect your career progression because you can't find help to help you along the journey. So you definitely need a support system to be able to make a success of your career and your path. A bit about influence. I heard about father's influence or parents' influence in determining, in shaping us. That's also very important. Like I said, I grew up watching my dad. I mean, working in a bank, going to work and coming home every day. That was sort of my first career aspirations, to work in a bank. So we do take inspiration from from what we see happen around us and our parents and the influence they gave us. And yeah, so that's basically what I have to say about that. I don't know if I got the full question right because of the way the network was going on and off.
Yes, Teresa, you did. Yeah, and you've answered it. Thank you. Francisca, your father's influence.
Yes, Adora, thank you very much. As I indicated in the intro, when I was growing up, my father was resident in the UK. So I was here basically with my mom, my siblings, and my other extended family. But the unique influence that my father had on me was that, first of all, being the first child, he was very, very particular about my education. So I remember very well that the first time I heard of W.A. Smith was what was written on the back of the books I used to receive at the beginning of every academic year. So my books, my math sets, my bags, that kind of thing. And most importantly, letters, those days, the airmail, the blue airmail letters. So when it was time for distribution of letters in school, at the dining hall, I was always ready. At least I knew that once a month, my dad was going to write to me. And it wasn't about I'm going to send you money or anything. It was about the encouragement that you need to be focused, go on with your studies. So at the end of every term, my main motivation was to get my results and post it to my dad and to receive the encomiums he would be pouring on me in his reply. So, even though he was not physically here, he really, really influenced me, kept me, my interest in education and everything. Of course, my mom was my first role model in terms of reading to me, teaching me, getting me to do everything. But even from a distance, my dad made sure that he was very much a part of what I was growing up to be. And unfortunately, he passed on just about a month after I'd entered law school. So I had to take a week off law school and attend his funeral in the UK. And I was amazed at his colleagues who came. I didn't know any of them, but they all saw me. And because I looked so much like my dad, said, "Oh, you must be Francesca? Oh, both used to speak so much about you. He was looking forward to you becoming a lawyer." I said, "Oh, geez." I didn't even know he was that proud of me and had spoken so much about me. But it confirmed all the kind of pieces of advice and the connection that he built and maintained with me. And I must say that that truly also influenced how I became and how I grew up and how I remained focused to get to where I am today.
Wow. So obviously, from everything that all of our panel members have said, a father's influence is also very critical, and I think key for me is if there's no gender bias in the way your father raises you, you grow up not realizing that you're different from men. And obviously, if you're all female leaders today, then it's a key ingredient for raising future leaders. The next question from the audience, and most of the questions are coming through as anonymous, so unfortunately, I can't mention names. There's one question that I think is important for anybody who is looking to take up a leadership role. If you have a difficult employee, but that employee is a high-performing member of your team, how do you deal with that person, or how do you manage that person, especially if that person is the highest or the best performer on your team, but then is also the cause of all of the problems in the team? Patience is smiling. Patience, would you like to answer that first?
So fortunately, most of our organizations have put in the performance measurement processes that take account of both what you deliver quantitatively and qualitative factors. So in terms of your behavior, is a very big part of the what and the how. Your behavior is a very big part of how you are assessed at the end of the day. So it's not just about what you deliver, but how you deliver it. So you can be as good as, I don't know what, which is the what. But if your how, is not aligned to the values of the organization, there's no way you'll be a high flyer at the end of the day. And so even people who are delivering on the what, have to work on how they deliver. And everyone has the opportunity, because periodically we go through performance review conversations with our direct reports. And this is the time to give them feedback. And if you want to do well, you must take the feedback on how you deliver, so that ultimately you can become the best that you can be. And personally, I have actually benefited from taking feedback on my how, because I told you I was very task oriented, and I am still very task oriented, but I had been paying very little attention to my how for a long time until I got feedback from a very, respected individual who sat me down and said, listen, we know you are very good at what you do, but how you're coming across is not helping you. And with that kind of feedback, I was very intentional on working to erase that perception, because what he told me is perception is reality. Nobody's in your head. They don't know what you intend. They can only see your behavior. So if even it's unintended, you then need to address it because it's not coming out right. And I must say that was one of the best conversations, a very difficult one, but one of the best conversations anyone has had with me. And I have worked on it, and there, with the feedback that subsequently I received, I have worked in correcting that, perception about how I go about things. So it's never too late. And once people are given feedback, they want to win. Somebody who's a high performing person probably wants to do well. And so because of that, they will take the feedback and work on the how as well. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, Patience. And I think that using your own self as an example, like I said, this conversation is supposed to be as relatable as possible for our audience. And therefore, for me, I like the fact that you're using examples from your lives. Everybody's using examples from their lives. And I'm sure there are many in the audience, women who may have similar circumstances and can learn from this. I am also learning. As a female manager, I've also had my own personal experiences, but today is not about me. So I'm really excited to learn from my panel of speakers. Abna, would you like to talk about how you deal with temperamental employees that are high achievers and deliver on business goals, the hard business goals, but are a challenge to manage and cause havoc throughout the team?
Thank you, Ajuba. And I think Patience answered it excellently, because we have the what and we have the how. And I think, just as she said, almost every organization, even in a family, right? I mean, if you have goals to meet, there's a way of getting the thing done. It can't be different from the office. And I recall that when I started my career, I had this boss who actually gave me a formula. I don't know if it's his own formula or is one that is, from business school, but it was P is equal to C times A squared. I'll never forget. And he said performance is equal to capability times attitude squared, which means there's more weight on attitude than on capability. So if you have the wrong attitude, you will actually nullify your capability and you push the performance down at some point, because you may be working, but you cannot work as a team. Remember, I said it wasn't a question of having excellent individual members in any organization. It's about how you pull everybody together so we work as a team, just as you see in a football match. So for me, it's not negotiable because of that A squared. If your attitude isn't the right one, as much as I love the results you are bringing, it's a matter of time. It's like having a toxin in, a good meal. It's just a matter of time. It's going to create problems. So you have to have the conversation. Let him or her know this doesn't work. Help him or her identify what the issues are and help to put in solutions. Give them a timeline to resolve it. Even if the person requires a mentor or a coach, put all that in. But it should be time bound. If it doesn't work, as much as I love you and I love the results, your attitude won't work. We'll have to part company. I think it's as simple as that.
Wow, I don't think I'm ever going to forget P equals C times A squared. If we take anything away from here, that's something that should stick in our minds forever. Thank you for that. Francisca, your experience of managing, and you're mute.
Oh, I'm muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear
you. Excellent. Yes, it's been so refreshing listening to Patience and Abena, because obviously this is what they do on a daily basis. And I'm in such a unique position, and it was so refreshing listening to those who are in corporate, probably so-called, and they've risen through the ranks. You know, as somebody who manages my own law firm, in the initial stages, at the beginning, it was more like, okay, this is something little, let me do it, take it one step at a time, till I get to the place where there's enough time, onboard people, and then let the organization grow the way that we've dreamt of it. And it was at that point that I had to really get recruitment process in place, get training and onboarding, and then get to work with people in the corporate sense. And it was through those kinds of situations that I encountered the kind of individual that the questioner described and how such a person has to be dealt with. Initially, I had no clue how to go about it. So I had to read around it, and most importantly, I had to follow friends who are in the corporate world and who have experience with people management at that point. You know, because I guess when in a situation like that, your ability to flow with people doesn't work. It can't solve that situation. Your ability to listen doesn't help, because this is a unique situation you have on your hands. So I'm very happy to have listened to the approaches that Abna and patients have used over time. And it's interesting that some of them, even off the top of my head and also from advice from other friends and colleagues, I was able to put together, which was basically, yes, you must be doing the best, your contribution, but your personality counts. Because at the end of the day, and we are also a small team, even the big corporates make sure that one bad nut will not be allowed to spoil the soup, as it were. So in a smaller environment like what we have, it's very, very necessary that every team member comes to work and they are happy and they are free to contribute their quota. So the kinds of solutions in terms of engaging the individual, giving them opportunities to, rectify, as it were, whatever is the gray area that's causing problems. And if they are able to do so, why not? And for the most part, yes, because when they see that you genuinely are interested in their growth, they begin to internalize and absorb the kind of suggestions that come on board, But when it's as if they have made up their minds that this is how we want to be within the organization, then, excuse me, no matter who you think you are, the organization has to grow, and it may possibly be able to grow better without you. So, unfortunately, then we may have to let off that team member. But I must say, for the most part, it's been an interesting mix. It's been an interesting journey. Most people come in. Of course, we have our different idiosyncrasies, we have our different backgrounds, but with our training and orientation and onboarding and the general atmosphere that we create here, everybody's voice is important. We listen to everyone, every information, we make sure we share it, because we are a small team, not that this person said.
So it's refreshing to hear the perspective from a smaller firm, owner managed, and how you approach such difficult situations. Teresa, I would like to hear from you with regards to also owner managed business, but cross-border sort of management style with the different cultures. And even within Ghana, the different tribes have different cultures, but how would you manage the teams living in different countries? So we are talking across West Africa. The Nigerians are probably going to be different from the Ghanaians, and they're also going to be different from the Liberians. But I would like to remind our panel members that feel free to answer some of the questions in the Q&A bar, because we don't have much time left, and I may not be able to ask all the questions that are there. So feel free to answer in the Q&A box so that our audience can have answers to their questions. Teresa.
Okay, so So to answer your question about managing staff across different cultures and different borders, it takes a lot of, you need to just be able to take into consideration the cultural context in which everybody is working and what works for Ghana and what works for Nigeria and the other markets, because you've got to be able to adapt your working processes to the various cultural environments so that you can get the results that you're looking for to achieve your goal. Now, if you take a one-size-fits-all approach, that's basically a recipe for failure. You can take the best practices from the various markets and try to implement them in these other markets, but of course, take into consideration their cultural norms and context. For example, if you have for example, in a country like Liberia, Sierra Leone, they're a bit more relaxed, very relaxed in their approach to work. And so you realize that if you try to drive them so hard towards achieving something, you just end up being frustrated yourself. So you need to find a way to use what motivates them in their environment to get them to achieve the results that you need to achieve. But what's important is letting them understand that these results need to be achieved within this time period and work within what the environment allows to enable them to achieve. For example, there's one example we have in Cape Verde. Cape Verde is an island, and they have a typical island culture to work. So they have all these siestas, and the country is on a healthy living drive. So they have all these walkways and parks, and people have to wake up and do a walk and take a siesta in the afternoon. So the work day of 8 hours is already, being divided into so many siestas and so many, rest moments. And that was a bit difficult to deal with, when we had to work in that environment, because we were used to this deadline needs to be met, and we work around the clock to achieve it. But taking into consideration the cultural context, we had to find ways of getting them to still achieve the results, to meet their daily targets while still working in that environment.
Wonderful, Teresa. I think that's an amazing perspective. So there are two questions that I believe I would like each panel member to answer before we end the program, because we are practically out of time. But Jocelyn, we're going to beg for a little bit more time, maybe 5 more minutes. There's a question about whether, as a business leader, you need to necessarily have financial management skills in order to be able to understand the financials of a business, particularly how to account for your expenses and your revenue. Because obviously, apart from Patience, who is a trained accountant, the rest of you obviously did not study finance to begin with. So how did you capture that in your training and becoming business leaders? Teresa, we've lost Teresa. Okay. So I think that our time is up, and we'll have to end at this point. But before we go, I'll ask the panel to answer the questions in the chat box, so I can go on mute, because the fire alarm is going over here and is interrupting. So as much as possible, if you can answer the questions in the Q&A box, that would be very helpful. Abna, did you want to speak on the financial management?
Yes, I was just going to say that, personally, obviously, my mother was a trader, so basic buying and selling and understanding that, what you get from the sales isn't actually your money, was something I understood. So I understood the difference between cash flow, profit and loss at a very early age. But apart from that, I'm also an economist, and I have an MBA, which includes finance and strategy. But even if you don't have that, I think basic financial planning and understanding is available either online, or you could actually talk to anybody who understands numbers. And if all else fails, then you can also hire somebody who will do that for you, even if it's a small company. But I think everybody must learn the basics of financial planning, the basics, so that you can understand the difference between income, your profit, and your cash flow. I think it's the bane of the problems we see, across board, regardless of size of company. So those three, everybody must understand.
Thank you, Abna. I know Francisca would like to speak, but you have to forgive me. So I want parting comments from each of the panel members. And whilst you do that, there was a question about any specific books that you've read that have been pivotal in your career. So you can use your closing remarks to share that as well. So Francisca, over to you, and would appreciate it if you keep it short. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ajoba. Yeah, so advice, generally speaking, on working and striving to get to the top. Basically, be prepared to work as hard as everyone else. Don't think that, or don't expect that because you're a woman, certain standards will be lowered for you, so you can catch up with everybody else. No, the standards are the same. They are gender neutral. So work as hard as everyone. And I would even say work harder, because there are instances where one may have to stay up throughout the night and probably catch 2 or 3 hours sleep. But get up, put on your suit, and you're out there. Because at the end of the day, it's not about whether you wear a female face or a male face, it's about the output. So that's very, very key. And then also that in everything that we do, we have to have integrity. Because you can go to all the schools you want, get all the certificates and the degrees and everything else, but integrity is key. If you are in the private sector and people have to come to you and pay for your service, they want to know that you will do what you tell them you will do. So integrity plays an important part. And another point, be yourself. That's it. You know how you were born, you were raised, your values, and the things that are dear to you, your plan, what you want to achieve. Be authentic and just be yourself and play along with it. Life is a journey, and it's an interesting one at that. So we have to, much as we have to work and do whatever else, we have to relax and enjoy that journey just by being ourselves, instead of trying to be what we are not and getting into trouble along the line. So at the end of the day, these are the 3 takeaways that I will give. Work hard, have integrity, and just be yourself and enjoy the journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Francisca. We really appreciate your time and the nuggets of wisdom that you just shared with us. I know I said you talk about books and that you've read that have been pivotal to your career. You didn't mention that. Do you want to mention? I mean, for a lawyer, you've read a lot of books, but is there any one particular book that stood out for you that you want to mention?
Yes, I can't mention one. Let me mention a couple of them. How women lead, how to speak like a CEO, and in fact, I love Trump's books. Why? Because I'm a businesswoman. I see myself, first of all, as a businesswoman. So I love reading books about business because it tells you how the little things you don't consider can affect what you do. So How to Get Rich, for example, by Trump, is a very amazing book, which I've read a couple of times. And then generally, I read business books as well, and self-development books. Anything that will encourage me and build upon my knowledge and my journey, I go for it.
Thank you very much, Francisca. I know that time is of essence to CEOs, so I don't want to keep my panel for much longer. So we'll go to Abna for your closing remarks and any book that has been pivotal to your career that you would like to leave our audience with. And forgive me if I add another question. There's a question that I think is very important that we must address as women around sexual harassment in the workplace. There's a question that was asked about how, whether there's been any encounter with that and how it was addressed. And I feel as if we can't end the conversation without mentioning that. So Abna, over to you. Okay, whilst we wait for Abna, maybe we go to Teresa.
Yeah, so one of the books I've read, which have really inspired me, is The Goal. I can't remember the author, but it's a book about business, so and about business and processes. So The Goal was a good one for me, and Sun Tzu, The Art of War. I like that as well, and I read a lot of inspirational books by leaders like Barack Obama's Audacity of Hope and so many others. So those are the books that inspire me. And what was the other one? Just sexual harassment. I haven't experienced, personally haven't experienced sexual harassment, but I've come to realize that we need to have, in our office environments, we need to have clear policies on sexual harassment. And we had an experience where in our office, which is a very, being a creative environment, it's very, how do I call it, laissez-faire, because of all the creative energies and the young people around. And we realized that some boundaries were being crossed. So we had to really come up with a strong and strict policy on sexual harassment, which we've firmly instituted in the business. So we take it very seriously now, and we had to do that to make our environment a safe environment for work. So sexual harassment policy is something that we all need to really embrace in our working environment, no matter how small your company is. It's something to pay attention to, because it wasn't something we used to pay attention to that much, but it really came up strongly, and we had to take measures to deal with that. So it is definitely a thing that we all need to pay attention. And I believe that as we have more female business leaders, we need to pay particular attention to that and help to protect the female employees in our employ, and then also to ensure that they have safer places to work in. So that's on the sexual harassment. The third point was 3 things to wrap up here. My key takeouts are just whatever your hands find to do it with all your might. And that's one of those that has been my guiding principle in life. Whatever your hands find to do it with all your might. And work hard, play hard. Just work when you have to work, and do find time to relax, because you cannot just be on work mode all the time. You must find time to relax. So I do that a lot. I work hard. When it's time to work, I go into beast mode. When it's time to play, I play hard. So just find the right balance for yourself. And the last one would be find your purpose, and make sure that you align your purpose to whatever you are doing. And that's the best way I feel you find satisfaction in your daily life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. We really appreciate those nuggets of wisdom. And I think it really, really has shown in your career success that you have applied yourself, worked hard when you needed to, and played hard as well when you needed to. Patience, your final comments.
Thank you.
I must add here that unfortunately, Abna had to leave because she had to go on to another call. She sent her apologies. But in the time that she was with us, she really did share lots that we found we could relate to, and we really appreciate the time that she spent with us. So over to you, Patience.
Getting the opportunity to lead starts with how well you play every role that you're given. So ensuring that you have under your sleeves a demonstrable track record of excellence in every role that you're giving. And the more people see you as being extremely competent technically, the more you have a foot in the leadership door. And in addition to that, then you build on acquiring other skills like the softer people skills and ability to work with people to deliver on results. And for any lady out there with leadership aspirations, I would say go for it. Really, once you know you have the potential, you're capable, and you're willing and able to learn, go for it. And there's a lot of help out there. You know, we didn't have opportunity to have mentors, etc., formalized mentoring arrangements like this, but now you have lots of women leading at the highest level. So you've got help out there in terms of mentorship, coaching, etc. And at home as well, don't hesitate to ask for help. Rope all the important people in your life into your journey and ask for help domestically to get going and make sure that everything important in your life is covered. And in terms of help, my take on this sexual harassment, and I don't have necessarily a personal experience to share, but I've had a few ladies walk up to me and tell and share their harrowing stories with me, is that you need to be very firm. You know, the thing about ladies is that sometimes we like to hear, well, naturally, I think we are inclined to want to hear sweet stuff. So sweet stuff, talk and compliments, etc. And when somebody starts like, oh, you are beautiful, you are this, you need to be clear on where that is headed and whether it is one that you want to accommodate, and if it's not, put your foot down and let the person know that actually I don't like, some of the things that you're saying. Be very firm and leave no doubt in the mind of whoever it is that I don't want to take this conversation further, and make sure that you don't find yourself alone with this individual, and if you work for the person and you must necessarily be around the person, make sure doors are open, windows are open, other people can see what the two of you are doing. And then there are also the formal channels that Teresa alluded to. Many of our organizations have sexual harassment policies, and there are processes spelled out, on how you can address such a situation. So if you don't know about it, ask your head of HR to share the contents of such a policy with you. And then you can test the process to see whether it's working. And as I said, there are all sorts of people willing to help you, mentors, etc. So by all means, speak to somebody. You will get the help and the advice that you need if you really want it. And on the books that have helped me, I've read quite a lot of books, but I just want to share a few. God is My CEO by Larry Julian. One Company Under God by Simon Lee. Halftime by Bob Bafford, The Art of Leadership and the Good General by Bishop Dag Heward-Mills. On that note, go for it, girl. Go for it. You can do it.
Thank you so much to Francisca, Patience, Teresa, and Abna. This has been an amazing conversation that we've had today. And given the number of questions that we got that we couldn't even address, it appears that it's a conversation that probably, if we were allowed to, would go on for a bit longer. But I think that if for nothing else, we've enjoyed listening to your stories. We have taken note of the fact that when you were becoming managers, there were fewer female managers, and therefore you didn't have female mentors, unlike the current situation where there's a lot more female CEOs, even though predominantly business leaders are still men. It's inspiring to see that there's a few more women in the leadership position who have made themselves available to mentor and guide the younger women coming up in junior management or starting their careers or in middle management who would become future CEOs. I like the fact that we spoke about getting an education, taking your book seriously, and making sure that you acquire the skills, because leadership is not gender specific. I took away the fact that we need to be bold as well and be fearless in how we approach life and not allow our gender to hold us back. I cannot overemphasize the fact that you need to work hard and be results oriented. It's a key thread that's showed through every single speaker's presentations. And I like the fact that all of you are mentoring young women. It's not just about sitting here and talking about it, but you're actually doing it. And also asking for help when you need help. I think that society conditions us that if you're strong, you don't ask for help. But all of you have emphasized the need to ask for help if you want to be able to have a personal life and have a career that you're going to rise to the pinnacle of. So we will take that as well. And the fact that you just don't need the hard skills, the classroom skills, you also need soft skills. Is how you deliver on your goals, is how you create an environment that fosters creativity and fosters people to thrive and to grow, is what will deliver the business results that you need. And the fact that you also have to have business appreciation skills. So you can't say that you're afraid of numbers and therefore you're not going to learn about how to make money in a business and how to manage your finances. You necessarily need it. You don't have to become a full-time accountant. If need be, you will hire one, but you need to understand your books. And one last thing I'm going to end on is the importance of having policies, having systems, having a performance management system in place and implementing it without fear or favor and not being afraid to take the hard decisions. Whether you are an employee of the company as CEO or whether it's your own business that you are managing. Every single speaker on here has said that in their businesses, they've had systems, they still have systems, and where you need to modify it, they've modified it and ensured that they've managed their teams with an even hand and created safe spaces as well for their employees. If you have to let somebody go, it's not that you're going to be motherly about it and keep the person on if the person is going to create a problem for the long-term sustainability of your business. I'm very, very, very grateful to the British High Commission for giving us at the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce this opportunity to have this conversation. I know it's not going to end. It's not going to end here. There may be other opportunities for us to interact with these female CEOs from our member companies that have joined us today. If your company is not a member of our chamber, please consider joining us because you get to interact with Francisca, Patience, Abna, and Theresa at our networking events. And thank you also to Her Excellency, the British High Commissioner to Ghana, Mrs. Harriet Thompson, for her opening remarks. And I'm grateful to Susan and Mary Kate, who have worked very hard behind the scenes to put this together. And to Jocelyn from the UK GCC for putting this together. Thank you very much, ladies. I mean, it's amazing because we are all ladies working behind the scenes. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Ajuba.